Virtual routing and forwarding. Well, we need to learn more about that and what it does for us. Well, find out more right here on IT Pro TV.
You're watching IT Pro TV.
We are jumping into VRFs. I'm saying that very carefully. If not, it sounds really strange for one reason or another. And here to help us to understand the reasons why we need VRF and how to configure it, Mr. Anthony Sequeira. So Anthony, as we get started here, we might actually be familiar with, of course, configuring routers, which we've already got. But what is this about VRFs, virtual routing and forwarding? What is that about?
Yeah, I remember when I first saw this, a couple of things immediately came to mind. The first thing was, oh, finally, something like a VLAN, but
Right.
at layer 3.
Right.
Finally, a way to do segmentation, or as we're going to see, path manipulation or path virtualization, a way to do that at layer 3. It's about time. The other thing I thought of was, oh, finally, I can give students an example of why they would use a different process ID in OSPF.
Okay.
That's always a puzzler for
Right.
students, right? They're like IP router, OSPF, and then process ID, and it can be anything I want, and it doesn't have to match on your routers. What's the deal with the process ID? Well, today we see an example of where the process ID would be critical, because when we virtualize at layer 3 with VRFs, we're going to potentially have 2 instances of OSPF running, Ronnie, and to keep them distinct, we would use different process IDs on the local device.
All right, so before you jump in that, because I like the technology as well, one of the hardest things that I remember trying to explain to somebody was, well, why do we need that? What the heck
Why
is the
would you
reason
do
behind it? Why would we want it?
Yeah. Think of the classic example, and that is a service provider doing MPLS VPNs. Now, as we'll see, you don't have to use MPLS with your VRFs. There's many applications of this technology, but just think about that ability of the service provider able to essentially carve up their edge router into little mini routers, one for each customer. So it really is a way to virtualize at layer 3 so that customers can have their own virtual router out of that device. And another thing too, I think that helps with this is just think about duplicate IP address spaces, right? This would be a way to immediately accomplish that. You've got customer A who went with the 192.168.1 addressing scheme. You've got customer B who did the same thing. Well, you can have those routes coexist on the router and not be in conflict by putting each in its own little context, if you will.
Yeah, now in the situation that I actually had to deal with, Anthony, there was actually 2 different departments, and they came up with the same addressing scheme. Exactly.
So same company.
Same company, but same addressing scheme, but they were separated by VLAN, so they really didn't care.
Yep.
But then we had to implement a firewall, and we just kind of realized something. It's like, well, we need the traffic to go through the firewall, but the VLANs by themselves didn't allow that. So I kept looking, and then I kept finding out. Finally, somebody said, Ronnie, you got to consider using this VRF technology, because that's what puts that segmentation at layer 3 and allows it to go through the firewall and then into the other VLANs.
You got it. And you know, what we've been excited about in Encore and talking a lot about is software defined, right? So, wow, okay, VXLAN, this cool technology that can do this dynamic segmentation. Oh, VRFs, this cool technology that could allow dynamic segmentation. So this is yet another little tool in our tool belt that software-defined mechanisms can automate for us to create all these cool segmented structures. It's really great stuff.
All right, so are we going to jump right into it?
Let's jump in.
All right,
let's go into viral. Ronnie, you can see I created a classic 4 router topology here. By the way, didn't need to use that many routers, but you know, Ronnie built me this incredibly kick butt viral server. I think he gave me like 64 gigs of RAM, so I'm always like, oh, I'm not going to be stingy when it comes to routers. So here's a 4-router topology, and we're going to step through the VRF config, and there is some gotchas here.
Oh, yeah.
And I cannot emphasize this enough. This is a config that I want you practicing, because if you have to do this in an exam environment and you haven't practiced it, you're going to feel off balance big time. So let's jump in. Let's go to router 2 and practice with this feature. The configuration of this starts out super easy, but then it'll get weird. And what's the weirdest is going to be your verification. So
Yeah.
it all starts super simple. It reminds me so much of VLANs. I can go in here and I can do IP, VRF, and I can say like blue. And we just created a virtual routing and forwarding instance named Blue. And now we're in VRF configuration mode, which we don't ever do a lot with. This looks just like we're creating a VLAN, doesn't it?
Sure does.
And then we can either exit or not. We typically don't. We stay right here. We're lazy and we go IP VRF red. And we just created another one. The verification on that is simple. Let me use the do shortcut so I don't have to go back to privilege mode. So I say do and then show IP VRF. And it says, okay, you have a blue virtual routing and forwarding instance. You have a red virtual routing and forwarding instance. You haven't assigned those to any interfaces yet. And there's a management VRF that is created by default. We can see that there. It's attached to 0/0, which is the management interface on this device for viral. Okay, great. So let's get an interface to participate in one of those VRFs. And here's where things get weird. I'm going to hit exit, and then I'm going to do show run interface gigabit 0/2, which is my connection from R2 to, I think, R3. And let's just double check that. Not that it's super important. We're just giving an example here. But yeah, so this is the link between R2 and R3. It's gigabit 0/2. Okay, so I need to look at the running configuration here, because when we pop this interface into the VRF, we lose its layer 3 config. It's not often that you have things like that happen to you in the Cisco world, so be ready for it. So what I typically do is just grab all of it, and I do my Control-C, and then it's the greatest tool ever invented, Notepad to the rescue, and we get that config onto Notepad. Because remember, it's about to go bye-bye.
Yeah, the nice thing is it's not one of those vague notifications that we get, right? It essentially tells us when we start typing it in, it's like, no, VRF actually just messed this up for you.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I love that it's post-mortem.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah, not before.
I think what Cisco should have done was when I do this, oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun with this demo that now, of course, I'm blanking on the command. It's good. We go under the interface.
Right.
So interface gigabit 0/2, and then we say IP VRF forwarding, and we indicate, all right, this will be in the red VRF. So it would be nice if when we press carriage return, they say, are you sure you want to rip out the layer 3 config? Yeah. No, they don't. They just say, we just ripped out the layer 3 config. And look at that. What happened? Well, we just lost our layer 3 config, so we just lost the OSPF adjacency.
Right.
Yikes. So please understand that this is going to be in a scheduled maintenance window when you go in and add this level of path virtualization. All right, no problem, no big panic, because I knew this was coming and I have the configuration on this interface that I can just apply back. So I do my Control-C, I'm in interface configuration mode, I paste in that configuration, great, but I don't think the OSPF is going to come back because of a couple of things here. First of all, as far as the interface goes, they were just manipulating OSPF cost under there. That's not where they actually enabled OSPF. But let's see. Show IP OSPF neighbor. And yeah, so what is going on with the OSPF neighborship that we should have between this device, Ronnie, and the R3 device out there? It's not there. Let me do this. Show run pipe. How about section OSPF? So here we can see the OSPF configuration. All right, so it looks like this is going to be the command that would enable it on the link that we are wanting the adjacencies to establish over. Let me do a show IP interface brief. Yeah, so it would be this one right here. Man, oh man, let's see. Yeah, we've got the peering with the .14 out the 0/3 interface. We've got the peering with the .5 out the 0/1 interface. We are missing the peering that is out that VRF that we've set up on the gigabit 0/2 interface. All right, let's fix that. But first, some more verification. Show IP VRF. And we can see that we now have gigabit 0/2 in the red virtual routing and forwarding database, if you will. All right, so how do we see the routing information there? Well, if we do a show IP route, and this is a huge point, Ronnie, and I say like, show me the OSPF routes, that's all the stuff for the global routing table. Remember now, for all of your show commands, for all of your pings, for all of your troubleshooting, you have to remember to specify the VRF. So if I do show IP OSPF neighbors, I can add, you notice, the, gosh, it wouldn't be on that command. It would be like this. Show IP route. Wait a minute here. Show IP. Let me just remember this. VRF, I think that's where it is. Yep, show IP, VRF, red, and no, that's not the command I'm looking for. Okay, let me just do some of the ones I know right off the top of my head. Show IP route, VRF, red. This is the routing table for that VRF. Okay. We have a neighbor out there that is at 10.00.10, I believe. Let's check. Ping 10.00.10 VRF red. Oh, come on.
VRF and then ping VRF.
Ping VRF. Thank you, Ronnie. Do you see how our students are going to need to practice with this? These commands will become second nature to you.
It's going to be VRF.
VRF red. These commands will become second nature to you, but they're totally not. And I haven't messed with them in a while, so I'm totally struggling with them. So this is going to be a practice thing. Wow. Show VRF red. We need to be able to do a OSPF config, and I'll remember how to verify it in a minute. But Ronnie, here's the deal. We broke OSPF.
Right.
How are we going to fix it? we have to go in with an OSPF config for that VRF. Let me see if I can remember this one. We're going to go router, use your context sensitive help. If you haven't done it in a long time, like I haven't, OSPF. I'll do process ID 2 because I've already got 1 on this router. VRF, red. So, okay, that's how we're going to fix OSPF. Notice it's not an OSPF adjacency for the global database. It's an OSPF adjacency for that VRF that we're configuring. Okay, now I can do something like, I'll be super lazy here, do it on all interfaces. So we use this syntax and we say you're going to be in area 0. And look at that. We got OSPF back up. Now show IP OSPF neighbor. Oh, look at that. We can see it right in that show command. So there, no wonder why I couldn't find the verification command we needed. It's just the verification command that you're used to. It's just the classic show IP OSPF neighbor. You don't have to add any VRF syntax. But please, if you wanted to like ping something, you better add the appropriate syntax. Let me just, as we're wrapping up here, Ronnie, let me just demonstrate that. If I do ping 192.168.0.3, I'm expecting this to fail. It should fail. And it does. Why? As you're watching this, do you know why? I bet you do. If you look at the global routing table, you do not have a route to 192.168.0.3.
Right.
Where is that route, Ronnie?
It is in the other possible VRF that may be out there.
That's right. It's in the VRF's routing table, not the global one. If you do show IP route, VRF red, there it is. There's the OSPF learned route. So when you ping and you reference the red VRF, then it's going to be possible. We can just put in ping VRF red 192.168.0.3. There you go. How many times do you think you're going to forget that you are dealing with a virtual routing and forwarding situation? How many times do you think you're going to forget when you do a ping to reference that? Right. How many times are you going to be forgetting these things? That's what requires practice. You saw how rusty I was in this episode. So I don't want that happening to you. And I used to configure this like every day for my life, right? So don't let that happen to you. Practice, practice, practice. Once you get the hang of carving up your router into these virtual routing and forwarding instances and troubleshooting them, you'll look back and say, why did I ever struggle with that?
Yeah, I remember the first time when I set it up, I really didn't get the idea that there were essentially 3 or 2 different instances of the routing table on one router. I was so used to actually just saying, no, it's a routing table. It's global for the entire router.
Yes.
So now this is thinking a little bit differently and understanding that each particular VRF actually has its own routing table, and we can actually do that. And that's what kind of really helped me to understand what we're doing.
And you saw what I was leaping to mentally here in this one of like, well, wait a minute. If I got to reference the VRF to see the routing table, shouldn't I have to reference the VRF to see the OSPF neighbors? And all of a sudden there, it became a little different, didn't it?
Yes.
So, and by the way, one more tip. Practice with all of the commands, right?
Right.
So what would happen... Corolla, thank you. Corolla's like, whoa, he's going back to a demo. We were about to wrap up. Corolla, you're the greatest. So what would happen if I was about to do this? I wonder what this would show. Show IP OSPF process. It's show OSPF process, Anthony. So watch this. Show OSPF process. Promiscuous. Woo, yikes. What is going on, Ronnie? Show IP OSPF. Where is that command? Oh, I guess I'm just thinking of show IP OSPF.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So experiment with these different commands. Show IP OSPF. What does it show us? Well, the process ID 1 information, and then it shows us the process ID 2. And look at this. It is giving us the VRF that lives within. So I want you practicing with your different commands. And by the way, I just realized what I was doing. Talking about getting confused. I was thinking about show IP BGP processing.
Okay.
But anyways, show IP OSPF. What does it show us? What about show IP OSPF interface? Another of my favorite commands. What is that going to show us as far as this VRF environment? So experiment with your different commands so that you get comfortable with their output in this whole new world of virtual routing and forwarding.
All right, Anthony. Well, thank you for helping us to work through that a little bit. Remember that one of the key aspects of this is when you first set it up, if you put it on an interface, and you already have an IP address on, it is going to disappear and you'll have to re-enter all that information as well. Anthony also showed us how this works along with, of course, OSPF and some of the issues that you have to go through, and his particular admonition to us, practice, 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 because it is essential. Well, there is more to come on the idea of path virtualization besides VRF, but for this episode, we're going to go ahead and sign off. For IT Pro TV, I'm your host, Ronnie Wong.
And I'm Show IP Anthony Sequeira.
Stay tuned right here for more of your CCNP Encore show.
Thank you for watching IT Pro TV.